Why is life turning out the way it is turning out? Why is love so often so hard to find and then to keep? Why is goodness and kindness and compassion and even a smiling face sometimes so hard to find in our day-to-day experience? Must our lives consist of drama, and more drama day in and day out? Many also know me as the Melchizedek consciousness. There are many labels to my energy. I come forth today as a universal logos, and it is from this universal vibration within the Creator's universe that I bring forth my energy, my support, and my wisdom to guide you. Within your being, there are so many processes of awakening taking place that it is challenging for you to recognize each and every one of them. It is not essential for you to recognize every awakening taking place within your being. Some simply activate, blossom, and integrate into your being without your awareness, and yet they offer foundation and support, and maybe even inspiration and encouragement to aid you in your spiritual evolution. Every human thought and every human action is based in either love or fear. There is no other human motivation, and all other ideas are but derivatives of these two. They are simply different versions, different twists on the same theme. Think on this deeply and you will see that it is true. This is what God has called the sponsoring thought. It is either a thought of love or fear. This is the thought behind the thought behind the thought. It is the first thought. It is prime force. It is the raw energy that drives the engine of human experience. And here is how human behavior produces repeat experience after repeat experience. It is why humans love, then destroy, then love again. Always there is the swing from one emotion to the other. Love sponsors fear, sponsors love, sponsors fear. And the reason is found in the first lie, the lie which you hold as the truth about God, that God cannot be trusted, that God's love cannot be depended upon, that God's acceptance of you is conditional, that the ultimate outcome is thus in doubt. For if you cannot depend on God's love to always be there, on whose love can you depend? If God retreats and withdraws when you do not perform properly, will not mere mortals also? It is very important that you understand this within your mind and within your being. When you recognize what you believe mentally awakening is, and then go within your being and ask your soul what awakening is for you, you might discover that these two are different. And it might be that the soul needs to educate the mind in the process of awakening. Often, even though the soul has power, the mind can dictate and hold a power in the creation process. Even if the soul believes that awakening for you is in a certain way and your mind believes differently, you might actually end up experiencing what the mind holds on to. So it is very important to have these two in sync, and especially that the mind adopts the understanding of awakening from your soul. For my consciousness, it is that awakening is a deep relaxation that allows for a surrendering. Imagine that you are sitting in a room and the room is filled with all things that belong to you. You're touching all these things and you're holding on to them. Even with your feet, every part of you, including your legs and your back, is touching your belongings. Imagine that you inhale deeply, and as you exhale, you allow these belongings to just float away. Now that, for me, is relaxing. Breathing deep into a surrendering process where you just allow everything to have space. It's not that they float away completely, but there's more space. With that, you are able to connect into the very truth of your being because there's space. You've given yourself space to connect. And so it is that in the moment you pledge your highest love, you greet your greatest fear. For the first thing you worry about after saying "I love you" is whether you'll hear it back. And if you hear it back, then you begin immediately to worry that the love you have just found, you will lose. And so all action becomes a reaction defense against loss. Yet if you knew who you are, that you are the most magnificent, the most remarkable, the most splendid being God has ever created, you would never fear. But you do not know who you are, and you think you're a great deal less. And where did you get the idea of how much less than magnificent you are? From the only people whose word you would take on everything, from your mother and your father. These are the people who love you the most. Why would they lie to you? Yet have they not told you that you are too much of this and not enough of that? Have they not reminded you that you are to be seen and not heard? Have they not scolded you in some of the moments of your greatest exuberance? And did they not encourage you to set aside some of your wildest imagining? These are the messages you've received, and though they do not meet the criteria and are thus not messages from God, they might as well have been, for they have come from the gods of your universe, surely enough. It was your parents who taught you that love is conditional. You have felt their conditions many times, and that is the experience you take into your own love relationships. We are also talking about today that you are experiencing awakening processes that are from the divinity within your being, and that they are inspiring. This is something of which I encourage you to be aware, the inspiration within your being. When you have an idea or a thought that comes into your mind that's just truly inspiring, we might say that, lights your inner fire that gives you happiness and joy, be aware of those thoughts. They will come out of nowhere. You may think that it's your mind thinking it, but they will just flow into your mind and maybe surprise you. These moments of inspiration have two purposes. One is that they are a purpose that requires an action. Maybe you feel inspired to go for a walk somewhere or to do something, and you achieve that. You follow it, you take action. Then maybe something occurs that creates even more inspiration, more love and more truth awakening from within your being. So one form of inspiration requires action. The other requires you to absorb it, to become it. It might be that the inspiration feels so big that you couldn't possibly achieve it, or maybe you don't quite understand it, but it feels very inspiring and uplifting. That's when you know that it's for you to embody. It may be that you need to embody it because you will action it in the future, or it may be that you simply need to embody that energy. And the energy of it will create further awakening within your being. It will almost like create a foundation that propels you further into your spiritual evolution. It is also the experience you bring to God. From this experience, you draw your conclusions about God. Within this framework, you speak your truth. God is a loving God, you say, but if you break his commandments, he will punish you with eternal banishment and everlasting damnation. For have you not experienced the banishment of your own parents? Do you not know the pain of their damnation? How then could you imagine it to be any different with God? You have forgotten what it was like to be loved without condition. You do not remember the experience of the love of God. And so you try to imagine what God's love must be like, based on what you see of love in the world. You have projected the role of parent onto God, and have thus come up with a God who judges and rewards or punishes, based on how good he feels about what you've been up to. But this is a simplistic view of God, based on your mythology. It has nothing to do with who God is. Having thus created an entire thought system about God based on human experience, rather than spiritual truths, you then create an entire reality around love. It is a fear-based reality, rooted in the idea of a fearful, vengeful God. Its sponsoring thought is wrong, but to deny that thought would be to disrupt your whole theology. And though the new theology which would replace it would truly be your salvation, you cannot accept it, because the idea of a God who is not to be feared, who will not judge, and who has no cause to punish is simply too magnificent to be embraced within even your grandest notion of who and what God is.